So we're home from a big trip. What happens to a 200-plus-year-old house when you leave for 4 months in Vermont during the worst flooding in 10 years? Well, let's do a little walk around. Well, the garden's definitely a bit overgrown. Horseradish is doing well. Hey, don't start with that.
Oh, there's some dill. There's lots of calendulas. They're going crazy.
Trailer's kind of grown in.
Yeah.
Shed looks good.
Beautiful. Look at the nice job he did.
Wow.
Thank you, Darren.
You're the best, dude. Yeah. Big thanks to Sophia for mowing the lawn. Looks great. Yep, a lot of sumacs. Some of you may remember my project back here last year. Still looks good. One thing's apparent, the woodchucks have moved in. Been home for 3 days from our big trip, and we went to Maine in the car to visit some friends who are going through some tough times. And so we finally unpacked the bike, and we're going to walk you through what we brought and why we brought it. Would we leave some of this at home? Do we wish we had anything more? Alright, let's talk a little bit about the electronics that we took on our trip to Alaska. First, we have the MacBook Pro. This is the computer that I did all my editing during the trip. We got out 23 episodes. It took me approximately 7 to 8 hours per episode. I did it on picnic tables. I did it on motel rooms. Basically, every 3 to 4 days, we had to get a motel room because I can't charge the computer with the Anchor. I think it would have probably filled the computer up, but then you got nothing. The editing process required plugging the computer into actual power somewhere. Now, we were able to do that at certain campsites. Sometimes when we took a break somewhere, I was able to plug it in, but generally the computer stayed put unless we were at camp or in a motel room. This cord that runs the phone into the Anchor was charging the phone, but it will not communicate with the computer. So at a certain point, I believe it was Nashville, I went ahead and bought this cord here, which is a Lightning to USB-C, and just bypassed the USB-A connection. These are the cords for inputting power into the Anchor. The Anchor is a 26800 series. And then of course we had the Olympus TG6, which I bought right before the trip because it was supposed to be unbreakable, and it is. We didn't break it. On past trips, we've been pretty rough on cameras. I wish we had a better zoom, but in the past, when we've had cameras with better zoom, the lens coming in and out all the time uses too much power, and when it lives outside, it collects dirt, and that motor apparatus that telescopes the lens, it just does not hold up. So that was a major factor in our decision to go with the TG6. The Magic Blue Bag, you've seen this in a lot of videos. We've got the charger, the TG6 point and shoot camera. We had 4 batteries. It was really overkill. I don't think you need more than 3 batteries. This little holder has a magnet in it. Pretty sweet. It's got extra cards, extra mini cards, SIM card for Canada, and we just swapped out the US one. It's got the tool to pop out the SIM card, and it's got the adapter for mini. Now, we were using this from the GoPro into the computer. You just put the mini. Is that a micro? You could put the GoPro memory card into this adapter. Now, I brought this. This also has HDMI, which we don't use, and a C, which I don't need because the computer already has that. So I did not bring this next time. We do need that. Next up in the blue bag, we've got the wall adapter, Cardo Pack 2s that we use to communicate. Those worked well. We charged them every night. Probably wasn't necessary. They're supposed to run for 10 hours, but we charged them every night, and they charge pretty quickly, within 45 minutes usually. If we had wall socket power, we can charge the Cardos, GoPro batteries, and point and shoot batteries, all with that. We have the wall plug computer, Enreach Mini. We did use this when we were in northern Canada and Alaska. I didn't feel it was necessary in the lower 48. There aren't that many places where we were really that far out. Of course, the adapter plug for that. One thing about the Enreach Mini, make sure when you're parking it at the campsite or going into a hotel, you want to make sure that you stop the tracking. If you're saving that track, save it while you're still outdoors. Because if you go into the motel room, this thing will continue to try to save. It'll burn that battery right down to nothing overnight. Sometimes it takes a little bit to upload that to the satellite. So make sure that gets done before you bring it into the motel room. It lasts at least 3 or 4 days. I did bring a number of these cloths. I never use these. We have the washcloth for cleaning the bike visors and a microfiber for polishing them out. And we just use that to clean our screens. I did break one of these mounts. I broke one of these in Labrador last year, so I brought an extra one. So we had an extra one, and the second one worked. I did bring the instruction book for the GoPro. I never used it. You just YouTube whatever you need to figure out. Lens cleaning papers, never used them. Really the only thing that was missing, a problem with the Zumo and Palmer, and that's in an episode. We had to do a hard reset on it because it had no more memory, and then it wasn't updated. So I didn't have the cord for the Zumo. So definitely bring all the cords for all your stuff, even if you think you're not going to need it, because you might need it.
So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that really stood out as being great things to have with you and really well-made products. This Cetus Summit day pack was invaluable. We use this so often, but this thing here just really is amazing how small it is, how easy it is to use. You can use it as a backpack, or what we usually did was when we go grocery shopping, this is what we would take.
All right, the tank bag. So that went in the tank bag. We're going to talk about the toilet paper kit. So on our normal riding around, weekend rides, weekend camping, we've used this a lot, mostly in Vermont. Vermont doesn't have pit toilets at any pullouts. So basically, at every pullout, when you walk into the woods, there's toilet paper and the stuff that goes along with that everywhere.
Everywhere.
Trash.
It's awful.
We loved Canada and even Alaska. On a pull-off, they have pit toilets. So we really didn't use this on the trip. But it's got a little trowel and a little bit of toilet paper, and you want to bury your stuff. All right, we don't want to see it. Nobody should have to see that when you get off on a pull-off.
Ladies, yes, we're using paper every time we step in the woods. Please carry it out with you. That's why I always have a little Ziploc with me and little portion pieces of toilet paper that I can put in that Ziploc. I keep it in my cargo pants in one particular pocket, and I always keep that full. And when you stop at a toilet or someplace, you can empty out that Ziploc without touching anything. But it's really important. I know nobody wants to talk about this, but please be aware of this situation and do what you can do. Yes, don't be an ass. Above surface shitter.
So we both carry headlights in the tank bag. And funny thing about going to Alaska, the Yukon, and BC in the summer is we never used them.
You don't.
But I used them a lot when looking at the bike, looking the bike over, or servicing the bike. And of course, after we got down to lower 48 later on, we used them quite a bit. The last couple of weeks of the trip, we did use headlights. So normally we are replacing batteries. I don't think we ever did replace the batteries because we really didn't use the headlights that much. Detergents. We carried a number of detergent bottles with us. Here's a picture.
In each of our toiletry bags, we have our regular Dr. Bronner's, which you can use as a body wash and shampoo. We also have one for dish detergent. The dish detergent was actually Dr. Bronner's as well, but it was their Sal Suds. If you don't know about that, you might want to look into it. I do feel really good about using the Dr. Bronner's products when out in the environment. There's going to be some soap coming out at the end of your dishwashing, or sometimes we wash our head right at the campsite. And the Dr. Bronner's products are probably the safest ones you can use. Now, we also have 2 larger bottles, which are ones that we hope to refill. I was trying to figure out how to find Sal Suds in bulk, and we really only did at one store, and it was just in the nick of time. We had been using the regular stuff for washing dishes and clothes. It doesn't work quite as well for that.
That was in the UP of Michigan, Marquette. They've got a co-op.
Really nice natural foods type store. That's what you want to look for the Dr. Bronner's products.
We brought this journal with us. We almost filled it up. We have a number of pages left, but we tried to write in this every day. You put the date every day, and then
what day of the week it is, because it's easy for us to lose track of that.
Yeah. We wrote our gas stops. We wrote how much it costs, how much we used for gas, and if I remembered to set the fuel gauge on the GPS, we could write the mileage down. So I will probably do another video on what this whole trip costs. We're able to break that all down. But other things to write down: where did you start the day, or where did you end it? Was it a motel? Was it a campground? Write that stuff down, because later on you're going to go back and, on the 3rd of July, where was that camp? I can't remember. Well,
yeah, just the name of the campground isn't good enough. You have to put the town in as well, for sure.
Gas stations too. Sometimes you pull up to a gas station, you don't know what town you're in. I would pull out my phone and just bring up the weather, your local weather, and it usually brings up the town that you're in, or darn close to it. Also, write down animals that you see that day. We kind of lost track of that. In BC, we started seeing lots of bear, and by the time we got to the Yukon, and then BC the second time when we were coming back, we started losing track of how many bear have we seen, how many moose was that.
We saw so many animals at times that there are several that are not written in there.
Write your gas stops down. Write your animals that you see per day. Write your maybe you stop at a restaurant that's really good, best breakfast, worst breakfast, whatever. You can write that stuff down.
Also, when you stop to refill some items, it's interesting to write that down as well. See how much of particular things you actually are using, how many times you need to stop for it.
For example?
Body lotion. Something simple like that. I use body lotion on my legs after a shower, and I like to have that. And how many of those did I go through? For that, I always get the squeezy containers, because the more you use, the smaller the container is. Also, food. How often we're buying fish. How often we need to buy Triscuits. And it is always Triscuits. It's the only whole wheat cracker out there.
That's often our lunch stop, is the canned Kippers and Triscuits.
And then our breakfasts are oatmeal, and how often do we buy flavored ones or the plain ones? And it just helps you plan ahead a little bit. We should have written many more things in the journal than we did. We now know that. We'll try to be better next time.
Our kitchen box. So I would say the big problem we had with that was the same problem we started with, and that was weight. It's by far, 7 to 10 pounds heavier than any of the other boxes. And it's just a fact of kitchen stuff. We carry 2 gas cans. We've got 2 stoves. We got the firebox. Now, the firebox is pretty heavy. And while we really love it for cooking steaks, we only did that 4 times. Is it worth it? These are decisions you got to make on your own, but they do have a titanium version. We might look into that. It's probably considerably lighter than the one that we carried. Many times we've thought about removing things from our cook kit. We've got the MSR stainless cook kit. It is just so darn convenient. Every piece in that we've used multiple times. Every time we think about, oh, we should substitute this for that, it just doesn't work as well, and you really don't save that much weight. So I'm not sure we can correct that. The kit's really nice. We might just have to deal.
And back to the firebox, it does seem to make sense to have two ways of cooking. You never know if you're out in the middle of nowhere for too long and you've gone through your fuel. All you need are little sticks, and you can boil water, you can do any kind of cooking on the firebox.
These are the 8-ounce, 230 gram bottles. So there is a smaller version. They just don't last very long. So we prefer these. They nestle right in. Now, a couple interesting thing is that we've got the Sterno and we've got the Jet Boil at the moment because that's what we happen to find. There's some other ones we found too. There was a more generic version that we found. The best ones are the MSRs. The MSRs seem to put out more pressure, more heat longer.
And more even.
Either of these. And we did have some generic versions that we picked up in Canada just at a gas station because that's all they had. It's interesting. You can put these in water and float them and figure out how much they are. I learned that on the trip, even though it says that on the side. I didn't know that. The clothes bag, accessibility. So we did a lot of changing a few times about where things went. It basically boiled down to rain gear and heated jackets. Sometimes you wear the heated jacket in the morning and in the evening, but not in the middle of the day. And if you're doing that a few days in a row, it gets tough pulling it out of the dry bag every time. So it'd be really nice if it was in a box. So I would change where the shoes are, put the shoes in the dry bag, and then I'd have my heated jacket in the trunk. A lot of times for over a month on end, we didn't even use heated gear, so then you can pack it away. We're contemplating changing where the clothes bag is.
The clothes bags as well as the rain gear, because hey, when you're on the road, you might need to get to that rain gear really quickly. And when they're in the dry bags, they are not that accessible. So we are thinking about in the clothes bag, right side box, we would put our heated gear and all of our rain gear and see how it works in the dry bag with our clothes in there. Because we really only pull the clothes bags out when we're setting up at camp or if we're walking into the motel. And we carry the bags in with us anyway.
One of the limitations to that is bringing the computer. The computer needs extra padding, so that's why we put the clothes around it.
To cushion it, because if we do go down, and it does happen, that's generally the side that we go down on.
And by go down, we mean tip overs in parking lots and campsites.
Yeah, that seems to occasionally just happen.
Because we have sweaters and rain gear in there, we're label the ends so you know whose stuff is in which end. It seemed like every single time we opened that dry bag to get something, it was in the other end. This goes back to basically the whole ethos of traveling like this is put the stuff in the same place every time and know where it is. So if you gotta label a bag with a marker, so what? Things that we didn't have that we wish we had more of. On previous trips, we've lost a clothesline. You leave it up. If you have a nice fancy Sea to Summit clothesline, we love those things. But make sure that you leave something hanging on that line so you see it. If you take the stuff off the line and you don't take the line down at that same time, you're gonna leave that line up there. If you do that 3 or 4 times, one of those times you're gonna leave the line. Well, we had 2 of those lines and we lost them both.
2 sets of 2.
Yeah, so
we lost, and that they're not cheap.
Now let's go back a little bit. When we were in Virginia early on the trip, we lost one. We had to go to the REI in Asheville, North Carolina, and picked up another one. And I think we paid $12 for the original ones, and then now they're up to $14, and then now they're up to $16. So they're not getting any cheaper. And then we lost one in Haines, Alaska, I believe. Mm-hmm. I think we left it. We had it kind of tied underneath the picnic table because there was no good place to put it. We took the cloth off that was on it, and then we didn't take the line down because we figured, oh, we'll use it later. Well, we didn't. We packed up the next day and went off without it. So we now have no clotheslines, but we've got the paracord, and so we just decided, well, we've lost 3 of these things, we're not buying any more. So we went and bought more clothespins. We didn't have enough clothespins. The Sea to Summit line has little buttons on it that are sort of clothespins. They work okay. Bring a bunch of clothespins. I think we started out with 9 or 10 of them, and we probably now have 17 or 18. Have enough to hang up everything you want to hang up. It's a clothespin. You can put a few in your toiletries bag, a few in your possibles bag. We'll get into the possibles bag as well.
Yeah, we used them for a lot of different things, actually. They turn out to be really handy.
Yeah, just the other day when I was bleeding the brakes on the bike, I used a clothespin to hold the tube into the jar, you know. It's just, they're great things to have. Twist ties. I like to tie up my headphones. I like to tie up some of the cords. They're a little dangly, and you lose them all the time. So bring more of those than you think. They don't take up any room. You can throw them in somewhere. And the Zumo plug. The Zumo crashed on us. It ran out of memory, and I had to hard boot that thing, which meant the whole memory was wiped. And so then now it's not updated. And I had my laptop. I could have updated it, but I didn't bring the cord. So bring all the cords for all your stuff. Early on in the trip, nearly the first day, our bath shampoo bottles were leaking.
One of them.
One of them was leaking.
One of the small ones.
I think they were both did because I modified both of them. So the problem was that the threaded portion of this lip was too short, and the cap bottomed out on this shoulder, and so it wouldn't seal. So I just took my Leatherman, when I had one, and carved off the top of the plastic so that now this fits down and now it bottoms out on the shoulder where it's supposed to. So check that stuff before you leave and make sure that when it's upside down or jiggling around, you don't have stuff leaking all over you.
We bought these from EMS mostly because that's what's near us, and there's a few of them around in the Northeast.
This one's a 1 ounce.
These are 8 ounces.
Those are 8s.
Yeah.
So I think we're done. Unless you got anything else you want to add.
Our tent is an LL Bean Mountain Light 3-person tent. We just have no complaints with that thing. It is rugged. It's been through a lot. It's been used a lot. The setup is quick and easy. The takedown is quick and easy. It's a really good, sturdy tent. I know we can come up with a tent that would pack smaller and be lighter. I'm not sure it'd be as durable. It's probably worth it to have something that's a little bulkier and a little heavier for your home, away from home, your tent. It just seems really rugged.
It does have at least 1 hole in the fly, and the walls are definitely stretched out. They kind of droop in more than they used to. It's a tired tent. It's still working great, but it's a tired tent. I believe that when we'll count this up, but I believe we camped around 30 or 35 nights out of 128.
Sure seems like it was more.
Seems like it, but it's not. Here we are sitting in the Kermit chairs.
Which we love.
And we used to travel with 2 of them. They're just too heavy.
They're wood and canvas. They don't fold down as small. They're much heavier. Well, we tried to talk ourselves out of having these many times, and it seemed like the first 2-3 weeks we didn't really use them. But then we found when we did start bringing them out, boy, they're so much more comfortable than a picnic table. Those are great to eat at, but they are not comfortable to sit at. And after a long day and running around and setting everything up, it's nice to have a comfortable chair to sit in.
We use these a couple times eating lunch too. Just set them up for lunch, pack them back in. We've talked about our sweaters, I think, a couple times, and it sounds like they're bulky items, but they're not. We each have our little bag here. They're in a Sea to Summit dry bag.
One of the best things about both of these, mine is LL Bean. What brand is yours? Is that their wool.
I believe it's a Smart Wool.
Yeah, I think maybe that one is.
Yeah.
Smart Wool, and mine is LL Bean. They're wool, so they're warm. So they dry quickly. They rinse out and dry quickly easily. But they're really stretchy, and that's handy. You can put it over your layers, especially if it's quite cold out and you have your heated gear on. You don't want to put this underneath it because you're keeping the heat farther away from you. But these stretch enough to pull over our heated jackets. That makes a world of difference. We carry this cooler with us. We strap it on top of the top box with the rock straps. One of the reasons is if we are going to stay at a campground for a couple of nights, that way we can buy some ice and we can have meat and things like that in the cooler. Frosty drinks, perhaps. In the meantime, we use it as storage for our dehydrated meals. These things don't weigh hardly anything, and we want to keep it light in and on that top box.
$18 at Walmart.
Yeah, we've talked about this before.
No, sit down. Act like you didn't move.
I think we talked about this before in previous videos, but wow, what a quality product, and frankly, it makes such a difference in keeping us hydrated going down the road. Kriega
Hydro 3. It's a 3-liter water bag, and it has been great.
It has been. He wears this like this. It's right in my face, but it's not too bad. And I can just reach over and I can drink, he can drink.
We thought it was a good idea while we were stopped to hang it right here. I mean, why not? Well, we got on the bike and rode off, and it was still there, dragging along. And somehow it didn't burn through, but there was definitely some damage here. Let's talk about air mats. I've got the Rapide. Really nice air mat. It's insulated. I used to have the AXL. I believe it's more insulated. I never once was cold from the ground. And what's nice about it, we use the blow up bags that you hook on it. You can see that in the video. But when you pop the exit valve open, it deflates nearly instantly, and then you can just roll it up. Whereas with the axial,
the old version,
you have to hold the button down while you're squeezing the air out. It's just a little bit more of a pain in the butt.
It definitely takes a lot longer for me to pack up mine than it does his. I have the older version of the roll it up airbag to fill it up, and he has the newer version, and it works way better. It's a huge improvement.
Pillows. Mine's a little bigger, hers a little smaller. Now she bought that in Canada. I don't remember where. We'll probably put it up. It's a nice pillow. It's really small. I'd consider getting one if this one stopped working, but this works fine.
This was really expensive. It's a Nemo, but it is a really high quality product.
What's in the bag, man?
Food.
I don't drink coffee. Kathy does sometimes, but we don't bring coffee with us. So we have tea bags.
We always had plain oatmeal as well as the flavored kind. The flavored ones, they're just too sugary, so we mix it. Lunch, of course, it's always about the fish and crackers. You know all about that.
I'm talking about the fish.
We try to always have about 3 of the fish. And you can buy Triscuits at almost any store, even most gas stations.
We've had other crackers, they just don't hold up as well. This one happens to be the picante hot sauce one. They also have a lemon peppered one that's good.
The Brunswick brand is where it's at. Out of all the other brands, those always taste good.
We did get some sardines at one point because we couldn't find those. We were pretty sick of that after about half a can.
Those were a little hardcore. Cooking oil. Always have some cooking oil. And I found that this California Olive Ranch brand, this is the second bottle. It's aluminum. It's super lightweight. And that worked out really well. This is only the second bottle, and there's still probably about this much left in here.
We did refill that at the bulk store.
Yep.
Almost 3.
So it would have been about 3 of them.
In 128 days.
Basically a seasoning salt. This is the second one. We went through the first one. Kraft sprinkle cheese, that Parmesan. Doesn't need to be refrigerated. It's handy to have some spaghetti. Take your spaghetti, break it in half, keep it in Ziplocs, packs really well, quick and easy meal. Sometimes we had to resort to canned veggies. And if you always have some basil, you can make it taste really good. We always have some nuts with us, walnuts or mixed nuts, and the last thing I bought were some pecans. We always have hot sauce. This came from Dawson.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Yep, it was a bargain. $3.74 for a can of pink salmon, canned chicken, canned tuna to add to the pasta dish. Just a couple packs left of electrolyte. You want to always have some electrolytes with you. Those hot days, boy, just drinking water can put you in a world of hurt. You've got to add something to it, minerals, salt even.